The house on Hollow Creek Road. The wind howled through the trees as Evelyn stood at the edge of the driveway, staring up at the dilapidated house that loomed before her. It was the kind of house that seemed to suck the light out of the air, casting long, twisted shadows on the overgrown lawn. Ivy crawled up the stone walls, and the shutters creaked on their hinges, barely holding on. She had inherited the house from her grandmother, whom she barely knew, and had thought nothing of it at first. An old house, an old inheritance, a place to escape for a while. The idea of spending a week there, alone, was meant to be a retreat. But as she stepped through the door, an uneasy feeling crawled up her spine. It was the silence, the oppressive, stifling kind of silence that made everything feel wrong. Evelyn wandered through the dimly lit halls, each step echoing through the emptiness. Dust hung thick in the air, as if the house hadn't seen life in decades. The furniture was shrouded in white sheets, like forgotten corpses of the past. Portraits of people she didn't recognize stared at her from the walls, their eyes dull and lifeless. She explored every room on the first floor, finding nothing more than peeling wallpaper and cracked floors. But then, as she was about to head upstairs, something caught her eye. A small door beneath the staircase, almost hidden behind a thick curtain of shadows. Her heart raced as she approached it, her fingers trembling as she gripped the cold handle. The door creaked open with a sound that made her stomach drop. It led to a narrow, steep staircase that disappeared into darkness. Despite every warning in her mind, Evelyn's feet moved on their own, dragging her up the stairs to wherever it would lead. The air grew colder as she ascended, the silence now suffocating. The staircase opened up to a narrow hallway, the floorboards groaning under her weight. At the end of the hall was a single door, closed, but something about it made her heart beat faster. She had no idea why she was drawn to it, but her hand reached out to touch the cold brass doorknob. With a slow twist, the door opened. Inside was a room frozen in time. Old furniture sat in the same places, covered in dust and cobwebs. But what caught her attention most was the mirror on the far wall. It was tall, antique, its frame carved with intricate designs. And in the reflection, Evelyn's breath caught. The reflection wasn't just hers. There was a woman standing behind her, pale as death, with hollow eyes that seemed to burn into her soul. The woman's face was twisted in a silent scream, her lips parted as though trying to warn Evelyn. But when she spun around to face the room, the space was empty. Her pulse pounded in her ears, her mind racing. She backed away from the mirror, her legs shaking, and that's when she noticed it. On the floor, scattered around the edges of the room, were old photographs. They were yellowed with age, and as Evelyn bent down to pick one up, her hand froze. The photo was of her grandmother, standing in this very room, holding a child by the hand. The child, however, was not smiling. It was staring straight at the camera with wide, terrified eyes. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her. The lights flickered and then went out entirely. In the pitch black, Evelyn could hear breathing, slow, steady, like someone was standing right behind her. She spun around, but there was no one, only the oppressive silence that filled the room once more. Then, a whisper, so faint it might have been her imagination. "Get out." The voice was low, guttural, almost inhuman. It seemed to come from the very walls, reverberating through her bones. She scrambled for the door, her breath shallow, hands shaking as she fumbled for the knob. When she finally wrenched the door open, she bolted down the stairs, never looking back. But as she reached the bottom, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The door to the hidden staircase at the base of the stairs had been closed, and the air was thick with the scent of old, decaying wood. As she turned to leave, she saw one final thing in the dim reflection of the window. A face, pale and gaunt, pressed against the glass, watching her every move. And in that instant, Evelyn realized that the house hadn't been empty at all. It had been waiting for her